I got a problem with Maslow's hierarchy. Hey, I am Chuck the bureaucrat, and I just kind of got to get this out of my system because there is an issue with Maslow's classic hierarchy of needs that can be particularly frustrating for military retirees. In a second, I'm going to show you an assumption about this hierarchy that's used by the general public but doesn't really apply to people like us. Now, I'm not going to browbeat you with the details because this little pyramid has been one of the most lasting contributions of any psychologist. I mean, it gets used in fields from social work to business to marketing. Heck, even engineers are taught this thing. In the simplest terms, Abraham Maslow proposed a classification system for the universal needs and goals that motivate human behavior. At the bottom of the pyramid, you got your basic needs and then social needs, and then way at the top, you're like needs of the self. But you guys know all that. More importantly, there is literally a problem with this picture. There is an incorrect assumption about how this classification system works that doesn't really matter for the general public, but it really matters for military retirees. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the 42-year-old college psychology professor who initially introduced this idea to me, well, she simply lacked the necessary life experience to even notice the flaw in what she was teaching. And here's the crazy thing. Way back in the 1940s, Maslow didn't make this mistake. It was people who reproduced his work that added this flaw into his system. So here it is. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is almost always presented as a pyramid or a mountain. It gets presented as a sequence of categories that you have to climb through. And what's more, it's often strongly hinted that you must attain the lower levels to proceed on to the higher levels. And then it's often implied that attainment of a level is relatively permanent. I mean, once you satisfy a need, that need remains satisfied unless something catastrophic happens. The pyramid or mountain metaphor leads folks to think that these needs are like base camps up the side of a mountain which we have to climb as we go through life. Now, for people like my psych professor, it was kind of like that. As her career progressed, she gained greater predictability in her life. She got better pay. She became a member of the profession and the university faculty. She gained respect of others, a sense of mastery, self-respect, and all of this led her to personal growth and greater self-expression. And not for nothing, but this metaphor of climbing Mount Maslow, well, you can see how it might be applied to a retirement-eligible Sergeant Major or CW4 or Lieutenant Colonel. But here is the kick in the teeth. Here is the problem with that representation for some 50-year-old military retiree. Many of these needs, which have been more or less satisfied through military service, are going to stop being satisfied once you leave uniform. Your sense of belonging to a group, those trusted peers, the people who respect you, your sense that you are the master of your own domain, your prestige, your clear and progressive self-growth, even some aspects of your autonomy and your ability to self-express. When you retire, you may find that all of that is just gone. And there you are. You thought you had achieved all those things and that now you could focus on achieving that pinnacle of Mount Maslow, but instead you end up surprised and lost. So here is the secret. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is not a pyramid and it is not a mountain. You do not progressively attain these levels. Instead, you work on all of them, all at the same time. Plus, it's been this way your whole life. We just tend not to notice. When you were a cadet at West Point or a private at basic training, you were simultaneously working on satisfying all of these needs. One of my favorite examples is that when you were first put in a uniform, you had to work on how do you express yourself as an individual when the usual tools of self-expression, like your hair and your clothes, well, they are now denied you. Anyways, at some point in your military transition, this reality about the universal needs of human beings is probably going to hit you. And when it does, trust me, it's not you, it's how human beings function. I guess what surprised me about the whole experience is that this didn't happen on day one. In fact, it took about 2.5 years for the full weight of all these losses to really come to bear. Anyways, there are a number of odd things that happen to military retirees simply because of the timing in their lives when they transition out of uniform. If you want to see more of this psychology stuff, take a look at this video about the seasons of a man's life and how the timing of major life events can get complicated by your military retirement.